To the news of the day, though, after an historic loss to the Chargers division rivals, the Raiders, LA has fired their head coach Brandon Staley and GM Tom Telesco. The Chargers are naming outside linebackers coach Skip Smith as their interim head coach. Staley finishes his Chargers tenure with a record of 24-24, despite Justin Herbert and the Chargers offense ranking 8th in the NFL in scoring. Staley was the Chargers' defensive play caller for all 3 of his seasons as head coach, and that unit was the issue as they allowed nearly 25 points per game, 4th worst in the NFL. And then, of course, there's what happened last night. Jeff, I'll start with you. How did the Chargers finally land on this decision to fire their head coach and GM? We felt like it was coming. Why did it make sense last night?
Well, you said a defensive play caller, and that's a big component here. When you give up as many points as they did in this game as a defensive play caller, that becomes a serious issue. And I know that for the most part, this doesn't come as a surprise really to anybody. But the only surprise, if any, is the fact that it finally did happen mid-season, because that's not something that Dean Spanos and the Chargers normally do. This organization has only fired a coach in the middle of the season one other time, and that was in 1998. So the fact that they fired the coach, they also fired the general manager, makes this a clean sweep and a wide open position for a potential candidate to come in and inherit a lot of power with a franchise quarterback in Justin Herbert.
Marcus, what was your initial reaction to seeing this finally went down?
Well, I thought it was past due, to be honest with you. We've had a long list of Brandon Staley maybe not being the right guy for this job. And Boogie, you just mentioned in the graphic of how well this offense has played during his tenure. And he was brought in as a defensive guy. If you remember, he was coming off of a Super Bowl team in the Los Angeles Rams, coaching all of those guys, Jalen Ramsey, obviously Aaron Donald, and sometimes they can make you look a lot better than what you are. But the head scratcher was you go out and get Khalil Mack, you pay Derwin James, Telesco had a debacle with bringing over J.C. Jackson from the New England Patriots and ended up having to send him back because he didn't fit the role, I guess, in which they wanted to play defense. But this was not about Brandon Staley as far as the head coach. It was about, for me, the unit that you're in charge of is costing you games. And it's the most underperforming unit of this team since you've taken over as a head coach. So it was time. It was past due. The playoff comeback was the one for me that kind of sealed it. We could get into the 4th down calls and the analytics and all of that type of stuff. Some of those decisions were good. Some I thought just from a football standpoint were bad. Now the Chargers get a clean slate, and it's time to start over.
Yeah, Mina, as Marcus is even listing off players, it's not like they're bereft of star talent. That's been kind of an odd scenario with the Chargers. I feel like they had the players. Right. So the GM, Tom Telesco, Mina, also fired. What kind of team is the next GM inheriting?
A pretty flawed one. I mean, the Chargers have good players, but a lot of them have been injured this year. Of course, Mike Williams, Joey Bosa has been injured quite a bit in recent years. And when you look at the roster and you ask, okay, who is the core of this team around Justin Herbert, who's about to make a lot of money now that he's no longer on his rookie contract, it is aging, and they are way over the cap. As you see here, they have the second lowest number of cap space next to, of course, it doesn't say, but you can guess, it's the New Orleans Saints. And there's the 2 players who are making the most money here. You got Khalil Mack, who's going to have the highest cap hit of any defensive player in the league. Keenan Allen, who's going to have the highest cap hit of any offensive player in the league. They're both in their 30s. Now, you could move on from them to get under the cap, but guys, those are their 2 best players, and there isn't a ton of young talent beyond that. I think this is a big part of why Tom Telesco was let go. I don't think he optimized the roster during Justin Herbert's rookie contract, and now it is not in particularly good shape. So whoever comes in is going to have to absolutely smash the next draft because they don't have money to augment this roster otherwise, and it does have holes.
MK, I remember us having a group chat, and we don't like to let people in our group chat because it's locked and sealed. But you think about taking Quinn Johnson as opposed to Zay Flowers in the season that he had. That's something that you mentioned as well when you start making these decisions for young players. But I want to ask you a question because you get in the weeds of these contracts and what general managers need to do, where these teams are as far as roster-wise. What do you think the fix for this roster is? Is it to try to compound draft picks by trades of these older guys. How would you fix this situation, MK?
Yeah. I think you're going to have to do that. And you're going to have to get younger and faster on both sides of the ball. I say that, like, Keenan Allen and Khalil Mack both played really well this year. Khalil Mack in particular, I thought, had such a fantastic season. But because of the way they have to fit all these contracts under the cap, you need to find savings somewhere. I think Thule, the edge rusher they drafted this year, has been super solid for them. Asante Samuel Jr., who's still on his rookie contract, is a good player, but there's just so many areas on this roster where I think they need to find young talent, and they need draft picks to do so.